So discussion about place-based commissioning has been on the increase, partly prompted by the exponential proliferation of international biennial exhibitions. I'm sure all of you here are familiar with the criticisms levelled now at the type of biennale model that flies in and flies out of town, circulating the same itinerant artists and curators, and really allowing little scope for any engagement with place or locality. In recent years, there has also been talk of the collapse of a singular idea of modernism emanating from an authentic metropolitan centre or centres. There is no one centre of modernity. There seem to be only local modernities now. While this is a really exciting and empowering idea, which shifts the focus of attention to the local as the site of art production, how does it work on the ground? And what is the local anyway? And I think actually Lucy Lippard addressed this question in many fascinating ways in her talk on Thursday evening. And I'm sure we'll be exploring that question more today. The history of artists' engagement with place is long and complex, and our idea of place has evolved from fixed physical location to somewhere constructed through a series of social, political, economic and cultural relationships and processes. As Lucy Lippard wrote in Lure of the Local, I hope you don't mind me quoting you as you're in the audience, each time we enter a new place, we become one of the ingredients of an existing hybridity, which is really what all local places consist of. By entering that hybrid, we change it, and in each situation we play a different role. Of course, making, exhibiting and commissioning international contemporary art in rural locations is nothing new. Since the 60s and 70s, pursuing an expanded field for art, artists have chosen to work in remote rural areas. In theory, the digital revolution now allows communities living in rural areas to bypass metropolitan centres, to create their own networks, their own conversations and agendas. Yet discourses around situation and place, and this is something I've become more sensitive to since arriving in Falmouth 9 years ago, and the now exhaustive literature on the role of the artist and commissioner and their responsibilities when working within localities. These discourses are largely imagined and articulated from a metropolitan position and concerned mainly with urban-centred international exhibitions. So today, we'd really like to move the focus of the discussion away from urban settings to rural ones.
And in 71 something extraordinary happened, because Wim Beerde and his staff, while preparing that show, discovered that there were all kinds of developments going on in the world that would make it possible to develop a totally different concept for a sculpture show for Sandsbeek. And these developments, of course, were taking place in the United States. It connects very well to what Lucy explained on Thursday. I only heard the last half hour of your talk, but it connects very well. And they discovered that, of course, land art was taking place in the United States, but also performances, street theater, installations. So they suddenly took up this idea, not only doing a show in the park, but really making a Sandsbeek outside its borders, it was called. So of course there was this exhibition in the park, but it had works all over the country. In Amsterdam, nearby the sea, in remote areas in Holland. And of course the Klaus Oldenburg still exists, you can find it in the Krullenmuller Museum nowadays. It was a bit like the icon of that Sandsbeek exhibition.
I wanted to film the total eclipse of the sun. I came down and I wanted to make a real-time film, which was the total eclipse was over 2 hours. So I wanted to have it was 2 and a half hours or something. I really wanted to make a really long film of the eclipse. I mean, the film I did make was long, of course, but it wasn't the one that I wanted to make because on the actual day, for the Cornish that remember it, it was of course completely cloudy. No sign of it. And I was on a farm in near St. Barry, and it was called Burn Wall, but they used to call it Banul. And I thought, well, originally, I usually call a spade and call it a film is what I write on the film box. But this is the only one that wasn't the case. So I wrote total eclipse on the film box for this one. But then after there was, the eclipse was on the other side of the cloud, I changed it to about the place, the farm. And I actually made up the word Bernul because I knew that everyone would call it Burnwall. And so I made up the word Bernul, which was the title B-A-N-E-W-L. So it's a phonetic transcription of Bernul. And it was a 63-minute film of the farm, actually, not the eclipse. The eclipse was a sideshow. It was like the cows and and the animals, the birds. They sensed the coming of this eclipse way before the humans did. And I mean, the moment that it got dark and the air dropped, it was very chilling. And the thing that made it even most chilling more was the BBC flying above the clouds with a camera crew. So like a kind of the whole way listening.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, friends and fellow travelers. Again, thanks so much to Teresa Gledel and to all of you for the invitation to speak here. I think this convention is an extraordinary experience. It makes me think that Ren Koolhaas might be right when he told me the other day the future is the countryside. I must apologize if I might speak too fast in the process. I was never able to speak slowly. I always start the lectures kind of slowly and then they accelerate. And it's actually the reason for my partially involuntary language exercise. When I grew up in Switzerland, Swiss people were always saying you should go to Germany, you speak too fast for us, which is exactly what I did. I went to France, to Italy, and to Germany, and so anyway, apologies if this is going to be too fast, but I make an effort. So, House Museums is a series of exhibitions, and for me, it started already with an exhibition I did in my kitchen, and that had to do, I never used my kitchen, because I don't really use the kitchen, so there were books in my kitchen. And Fischli Weiss thought it would be a good idea to actually make my kitchen into a kitchen and to remove the books out and install food. And that was the beginning of my trajectory as a curator, this kind of kitchen art of Fischli Weiss. Other artists then added. We had Hans-Peter Fellmann, who did an exhibition in the fridge, and we also had Christian Boltanski and Richard Ventures, who did exhibits near the sink. And this exhibition lasted 4 months and was visited by 31 visitors. It was a rather intimate exhibition, which then developed into a room. I think this idea how exhibitions can travel through rooms is something which maybe I'm going to come back later.
My work with the films, when they're actually shown in situ, it's always the worst place, actually. Like Presentation Sisters, I had to show it to a room full of nuns in a gymnasium in a school in Cork, and that was really one of the worst hours of my life, because they hated it. They really hated it. And like, for example, Bernul in Newlyn Orion, that was awful. So for some reason, and even Michael Hamburg when he's Anglian wasn't, as soon as I could take it away, then it breathes. And even Amadeus and Folkestone was a catastrophe. It's just that, I know that I have to go through that painful bit of showing it in the place where it was shown, and then I can give it a new life. And it's funny that is, then it breathes, and it's a bit more like, that I find that the showing, and for personally, because I know it differs from artist to artist, but the making has to be wrenched away.